Israel is hitting Gaza with a new barrage of airstrikes as it prepares for a possible ground invasion. The death toll from the war has climbed on both sides, with Israel reporting 1,400 deaths and Gaza officials reporting 3,700. U.S. has confirmed 32 American deaths and 11 are unaccounted for. Israeli forces claim they carried out more than 100 strikes across the territory overnight. Strikes come as trucks carrying humanitarian aid wait to cross from Egypt into Gaza. In Cairo, pro-Palestinian crowds are taking to the streets, criticizing Israel's approach to the conflict. Demonstrations also broke out in other cities in the Middle East this week. CBS News foreign correspondent Chris Livesay joins us now from Cairo. So, Chris, tell us, what are you seeing on the ground there with the mass protests ongoing?
Well, Elaine, we've seen thousands and thousands of protesters, and this is just the beginning. We've even seen protesters turning out to Tahrir Square here in Cairo, the epicenter of the Arab Spring protests back in 2011, which, as you know, were met with a brutal response from the police. There haven't been mass protests since then for the very simple reason that they've been completely outlawed, no matter what the cause. Until now, the government has lifted the ban specifically for today to give people a sort of release valve for all this pent-up anger that's been generated by this conflict just across the border in Gaza, the border that Egypt shares with Gaza. I should emphasize, the only border that Gaza has outside of Israel. So it's really the only exit for these refugees that are backing up at that border because it's still blocked. It's still shut down. That means aid that needs to enter that area can't go in, and refugees who want to come out, they can't come out. That's despite a deal that was that's been negotiated now for many days. President Biden, when he was in the region recently, he helped broker a deal that should allow aid to come in, but we're still waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, so Chris, is there any sense of a time frame on when we might see humanitarian aid cross over into Gaza from Egypt?
So there are more than 100 trucks full of life-saving aid, food, water, medicine, you name it, that is not able to cross. It's just idling at the border on the Egyptian side of the border. According to this deal that President Biden helped push through, an initial 20 of those trucks should be allowed to cross over, but it is not the case, at least not yet. According to the United Nations, it should happen within the next day or so, but the Palestinians waiting for that aid on the other side of the border have heard this story before. So when we talk to them, they tell us, well, you know what, we frankly are running out of hope, just like we're running out of food and water and all these other supplies that we so desperately need.
Chris, it's interesting. You talked at the top about Egypt allowing these demonstrations, these pro-Palestinian crowds to gather in Tahrir Square. At the same time, the Egyptian government has said it will not accept Palestinian refugees from Gaza. Why is that?
It's a complicated issue. The big one is because they say they don't want to disrupt the possibility of a Palestinian state in the future. And how could they have such a thing if there are no Palestinians left in the Gaza Strip? And basically, they're worried about a domino effect. If they start to let in a few refugees from the Gaza Strip, that could be hundreds down the road, thousands more. And they know the history of Palestinian refugees not returning. You just have to look to nearby countries like Lebanon and Syria and Jordan, where millions of Palestinians have been living for decades in temporary camps that are now permanent. The other big reason is because of their own national security here in Egypt. They're concerned about there being Hamas elements that could blend in with the otherwise very peaceful civilians trying to escape. And if they were to make it onto Egyptian soil, they could then perhaps continue to launch attacks on Israel. And then Israel might be forced to reply with force. And now what you have is a localized conflict they would be returning fire on Egypt in that case. And so this local conflict could spread into something much more dangerous and bigger on a regional scale. So it seems like the government here is allowing these protests to happen also for that reason, to show the rest of the world that this is not limited to Gaza. It's throughout the Arab world.
As you say, Chris, an incredibly complicated picture. Chris Livesay in Cairo for us. Chris, thank you.